Good morning, everyone. Today is March 24th, 2021. This is your show, StockCast, where we talk about pre-market movers and breaking news that has taken place before the bell rings. I am your host, James Mason. With me is Todd Derby. Todd, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
I am doing well so far. So let's take a look at the overall market. So currently, the Dow futures are up 113 points. S&P 500 is up 16 points. We are looking like we're going to come out the gates bullish, but probably due in part to yesterday being so red in the market. So just keep that in mind. This probably is not like a reversal for everything to start shooting back up, but nonetheless, the market overall is not what you consider bearish, like how a lot of traders are trying to act on social media. It's kind of, I shouldn't laugh about it, but it's kind of comical to see so many traders on social media freaking out, talking about how screwed up the market is. I mean, it's like goodness, like let's take a look at the SPA really quick and just look at this daily chart. So obviously we'll just make this a little bit easier for y'all. We'll look at the Dow futures. These are daily candlesticks for Dow futures. This is not what you call bearish by any means at all. So we are literally still at like all-time highs. So for the new traders who think that the market is bad now, man, y'all have a lot of surprises ahead of you. But hey, that's what makes the market so great. There's always something to look forward to. All right, Todd, what do we have this morning?
A couple tickers. One we talked about earlier in the week and a new one this morning. So let's take the first one. It's a BCLI, Bravo Charlie Lima India.
All right.
Making a strong push this morning.
So this ticker BCLI, they just released their news about positive top line data, phase 2 study, and obviously if this is something you're interested in, you'll need to do a little research here. I haven't had a chance to really dig into it, but I did see this announcement just come out right before we went live here. But you can see how this candlestick shot up, went from $4 to $5.88. It pulled back, and that's pretty standard for a lot of these bio stocks. You'll have this rapid candlestick, and then you'll have the bears ready there to short it.
So I haven't looked at the news. We mentioned in our pre-market talk, but what struck me when I looked at the ticker was there's no volume. It's right now it's trading about 278,000 shares, which is not really something to get me excited yet. So that first push was only 66,000 for that big green candle. So I'm not ready to do. It's a no play for me at the moment.
Yeah. So let's talk about the fundamentals first before we get into breaking down the chart. So the last update for the short interest here was 3.93 million shares being shorted, which is almost 12.75% of the float. Their days to cover, and this is, Todd, in my opinion, I think this is what might actually matter here. Their days to cover is 3.4. So for anyone who is tuned in, that doesn't mean that anyone who is short, they have only 3.5 days roughly to get out of this trade. What that means is the current amount of shares that are being shorted, it's that amount more than what the average volume is. So for instance, let's say the average volume was 100 shares, hypothetically. If the days to cover were 300, then it would just be that difference. So it would take, to get out of that short position of 300 shares and the average volume is 100, it would take 3 days. That's how they come up with that number. So outstanding shares, 35.7 million. The float, 30.9 million shares on the market. So now let's take a look at the daily chart here. You can see that it's starting to make a little push up here at 510. we are breaking above these daily candlesticks. So now we're wanting to close this gap. What I could see potentially happening in here, especially if we start to break above this $5.91 range, is to completely fill this gap and come up here and test this 200 EMA. That 200 EMA, as it stands, is $7.36. So again, do your research before you jump into this one. This is running off of a catalyst currently, and we're now starting to get a little bit of volume in there. And this is ticker BCLI. So the next one, Todd, this is one that we actually talked about in one of the previous shows. This is ticker CSCW.
Yeah, I can't remember who brought it up to us, but a member, one of our listeners brought up and asked about it. And at that time, it was trading around 94, 95, 96 cents. It was on Monday.
Okay. Yeah. So this one, I love the entire setup on it. And I forgot about looking back at it after the show was over to make an entry. So this ticker is CSCW, and you can see, let me just go to the daily chart. You can see where I drew my trend lines. My stop loss was going to be $1. I was talking about waiting until 126 before I make my entry. And again, I didn't go back and look at it after the show. I missed this beautiful run today. And again, this was just a few days ago. This would have been, man, such an easy win. So we can see we're currently at $1.55. And overall, my overall target price was $3.30. And that's if we keep this momentum up. Now, looking at this 5-minute chart, that's not looking like it is going to keep the momentum up. So this is one of those trades. Earlier we was talking about where we set our stop loss. We was actually talking about at $1.64. Well, we have now broken down below that. And what's going to be critical here is if this thing can actually hold up. The way it's looking, not at the moment. So we'll need to see if this thing is going to come down here, test the support at around 147 or that 200 EMA line, and then below that we have that breakout point at 126.
So I know a couple of our paid members I saw in the chat box talked about it because they got in under $1 and then it jumped to like $1 or $7.08, and they were talking about, they were a few pennies ahead. So Boss said he's taking credit for sharing with us, and so maybe he can let us know. Did you make any money on it?
Well, you know how it goes. If you're running the show and you talk about it, you get the credit for it, except for the bad stuff. So
that's true.
So I'll take the credit for this one, Todd. And that's just the way it's going to be.
All right.
Oh, sweet. So he did make money on it. Outstanding.
All right. Okay. These were a couple that were mentioned before in our chat. We'll bring in this morning. RLX.
All right. RLX. So I don't know anything about this ticker. Let's see. Looks like a couple press releases yesterday and the day before. Just skimming headlines, talking about potential growth going in, ahead. But fundamentally, so what we got. Ooh. So RLX. This one, its share structure is so screwed up right now. And let me see. Okay, I don't see any reverse splits on the TradingView chart. Not sure if they had any, and it's just not updated here or not. But with what I'm looking at, shares outstanding. Now, this is going to be so lopsided. So shares outstanding, 133.9 million shares outstanding. The float, 1.1 we'll simplify this. 1.5 billion shares outstanding. 1.5 billion shares for the float. So you can see how that is actually the opposite how it should be. I'm not sure why this data is coming in like this.
Is that a mistake?
What's that?
Is that a mistake?
No, it probably ain't a mistake with the data provider who's supplying this, but that's odd. Again, this is one I'm not familiar with. I don't know why the float would be that off. So this may be something to research on your end if you're in this trade or looking at this trade to understand why. And really just looking at the chart, that's a significant gap down right there. Was there any particular reason why they wanted us to talk about this?
No, I was just mentioning if we could just talk about it. So that's why it's helpful when you guys offer tickers. Like, for example, the next one we're going to talk about, the guys add a couple words of price that he's in at. It just gives us a little more basis to take a look at it. So I'll respond to them and see if we can get some more data for tomorrow. Let's take a look at the next one.
Well, really quick though, like even just for a setup here, there's not even enough data to really come up with a setup on the daily chart.
Yeah.
So all around, this would be a complete no-go for me. All right. Todd, what's the next one?
Someone's asking about a recovery play on CLOV, Charlie Lima Oscar Victory, and they're in at a $12 price range.
And for a recovery, I'm not even gonna lie, it ain't looking too well. Man, before this thing could even start having any hope of recovery, can y'all see where this dips down right here on this daily chart? This range would be about $10 and we'll just say 25 cents right in there. And draw a line for y'all. So before this thing could even have any hope, that's a critical breakout point right there. We need to see it get back above that range if this thing is going to stand a chance. Now, long term, and by long term, there's really no guesstimation on when it could happen, but long term, I'd say it would probably make its way back around. Let me check out the fundamentals on it. I don't know. So outstanding shares, 440.7 million shares outstanding. The float, 82.8 million shares. There's a lot of shares out in the market for this thing, guys. So this thing right here, man, it would have to be a no-go for me, and seeing it turn around anytime soon to get back up to $12, they better pull out a significant catalyst because it's going to be a long time for that to happen.
There's a gap down on, I think, February 4th. So there is a gap to fill in the chart. But again, I'm with you. I don't think it's going to be anytime soon.
Yeah, but that gap, we got a gap right there and a gap right here. Heck, we have a long ways to go to even just get to that breakout point. So this thing will probably, on the daily chart, without a catalyst in general, probably trend sideways, chop around, and eventually make its way back up. Where I start paying attention to it at is at 10.25. That's where that breakout point should
So the member who's in it at $12, this isn't the best news.
Yes.
Okay.
All
Take a look at CCIV. CCIV.
right. CCIV.
Lucid Motors.
So this thing was honestly just a pumped up EV play here, and this chart ain't looking well either. The critical breakout point here is right here above these daily candles, so around $36, and we are roughly 12 points away from that. It's currently going for 24.38. We're just coming off of earnings. Just seemed like earnings were just kind of so here. Nothing too significant, but you can see that breakout point right there, where once it gets above that range, it just goes parabolic, and then vice versa. Let's see. Hold on a second. All right. So since this thing was so pumped up, it's going to kind of skew these ranges, and we really don't have a lot of data to work with here in the context of charting it. I mean, if you go back, literally January the 11th is where we started getting some price action going on, and we're pretty limited here. So this is why this range will be so wide. Me personally, looking at on the daily chart, that critical breakout point is going to be around 36. And me personally, whatever my average price was, I'd have a stop loss in around $20, between $20 and $20.20. As you can see, if it breaks below that range, I mean, we would risk going back down here into these lower teens. Now, is it like what's the likelihood of that? Excuse me. Hypothetically speaking, with as much as this thing has sold off already, you might be all right, but then again, I am just speaking about this from a technical analysis. This is a stock that I didn't even trade. So you may know more about this than I do to understand what's actually going on here. But just from a technical analysis, my stop loss would be between that $20.20 range down to 20. And if it breaks below 20, that's when things will probably get really bad. But again, like likelihood of it, probably not. We're probably going to chop around in this range. What tends to happen is you'll see another little bounce, another spike, probably come up here, test this 36. If it started breaking above 36, then I'd make my stop loss 36. Is it going to go back up here into the 60s? More than likely not. If it did, it's going to be a long time from now. So that is what I see for this ticker. This is CCIV.
All right, appreciate it. I'll respond to that member privately with the information.
Okay.
Appreciate it. So here's another one. Members asking about in the comment section here. John Somerset, another Michigan boy. NNDM, Nancy David Mary.
Okay, so this company right here is notorious for just doing public offerings. Now, I haven't traded this one in a while, but a lot of people tend to get so hyped up on really their product that there's so much competition already in the market for already with their little police cameras and whatnot. And that's why I really just can't get behind the whole bullish thesis on it. And they do have other things going on within the company. But again, like what really deters me from this company and always has deterred me from this company is if you just like look into their news. Let's see if I can just see some off the top of my head. So without wasting no more time, if you just, you can see one right here. And this is just skimming, just trading view news right here. There's one for February the 16th. If you just like skim through their news, like you can just see so many offerings. And I mean, it seems to have worked for a while, but you can obviously see this sell off within this company now. So just breaking it down by the chart, we can see how it's responding on this little support here around, say around 940. We're a little bit below it, but how I like to trade, I actually wait. I don't really care about the candlesticks. I wait for that 9 EMA on that time frame. If that 9 EMA crosses that support, so breaks through that support, then I know it's going to be bearish, and vice versa as well. So if this 9 EMA crosses below it and then eventually crosses back above that, that's how I trade this. I would go bullish then. So we'll have to see, since this is already midways through some price movement right here, let's see what this 9 EMA is going to do. Is it going to come down here and touch on this support and bounce again, like right back here? Or is it going to just break through and just unload? Now, if it breaks through this 940 range, that 9 EMA, then its next support will be down here around $6.50 roughly. So that is what I see for this ticker, NNDM.
All right. It's probably the last one here. Let's take a look at LIFE, Life.
Okay, so it just had earnings. Earnings seem to have came out better than expected. So we have talked about this one before already. And again, I'd have to wait for this thing to start breaking up through these ranges right here. Let me check something out really quick. All right, so outstanding shares, 10.1 million. The float, 9.4 million. So I love this float. This is a beautiful float. So with that float being that small, the earnings were better than expected. And what will happen a lot of times, guys, you have earnings that will actually beat, but then it will sell off some. And that's just like one of those weird things about the market. But what I would do here is I just want to look at another thing really quick. Okay. What I would do here is I already have this chart out between the ranges of 5. That's going to be 565. It's just probably hard to dial that into that cent, but this 565 range and this other range at 645. I'm pretty sure before I said my stop loss would be, let's see, hold on. I'm actually going to readjust my analysis off the last one. All right. And stand by. All right. So I readjusted my analysis off the last time we spoke about it. What I'm going to wait for now is entry at 565, new stop loss 510. We should see a nice breakout here at 645, and overall target price for me will be 1113. And you can see, looking at this chart, why I chose my overall price right there. With that very low float, and there's positive earnings or earnings that made a surprise. Let's see if there's any catalysts coming up. Okay, so just skimming their news, it does seem like they do have a catalyst somewhere in the works. On March the 16th, I'm reading a headliner here talking about they announced positive biomarker data from phase 2 clinical trial. So that'd be something to keep our eyes on here. And let me drop an alert in right here really quick. All right. So I'm going to research this one a little bit more. I appreciate whoever has brought this up for second time now. Just readjusted my analysis here with that low float, and we're now beyond the earnings, and I can see a little bit clearer picture here. So again, I'm going to wait for this thing to turn back around, come up here, break above 565 for an entry. My stop loss will be 510. If we break above 645, should experience pretty nice breakout at that point. And maybe if we get to that point, we can start having this thing gap up and go into a parabolic bullish state and hit that overall target price. So this one, it's actually worth watching, in my opinion. And this is ticker LIFE.
All right, sounds good, boss. Thanks for sharing that with you. Someone asked about ticker ITRM. We'll cover that tomorrow because that's a little bit out. There's some information coming down the road on that, but we'll share that tomorrow because we're running out of time today.
All right, guys. So that is all I have today. We appreciate y'all tuning in. Again, the market's looking like it's going to open up bullish at the moment. But, hey, we know how this market is. I mean, there have been plenty of times where it's opened up strong at 120 points for the Dow and then dropped 300 points. That's just the way it goes.
So trade smart, trade safe.
Absolutely. And keep those position sizes small. So we appreciate y'all, and we will see y'all in the next one.